started. So I'm Scott Zeloff. I'm a Lower Merion Commissioner. My district includes Bryn Mawr and Haverford and a piece of Gladwin, and includes the all along the Lower Merion side that is the county line corridor. And I have been working with Commissioner Mulrooney, and before that Commissioner Nagel, and on the issues are on County Line Road and the County Line Corridor. There was some crash history, there are excessive speeds, and there's been a concern about pedestrian safety. And so Radnor Township and Lower Merion Township got together a few years ago and agreed to have a traffic study done. And that traffic study was conducted by Gilmore, who is the engineering firm that Radnor uses. And that traffic study runs from the County Line Road at Lancaster Avenue to the Landover Haverford Road intersection that is also the border of Radnor and Haverford, and where also Lower Merion and Haverford. And so there are a number of recommendations from that study. There was a public meeting held at the Ludington Library 2 years ago, followed by the final report. And the townships agreed to pursue a traffic signal at Montrose Avenue with County Line, which was one of the recommendations in the study. And that's something that the community generally supported at that community meeting at Ludington Library, and the township support. And we put it into the our 2020 capital budgets, and things slowed down a year ago, both because of the virus and because of some delay with PennDOT and their issuing of permits. This is a state road. It actually is state road number 1001. And so anything done on this road requires PennDOT approval. Before we get much further, I should stop for a minute and make a few introductions, which I should have done before I got started. So in addition to Commissioner Mulrooney from Radnor Township, Commissioner Sean Farhi is with us. His ward adjoins Commissioner Mulrooney's. Sean, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Zeloff, Commissioner Mulrooney, for having me on the call. I appreciate it. Yeah. So without stealing your thunder, Montrose is actually a ward, my Ward 7. So that's kind of how this all relates. And I have pretty much from Montrose all the way to the McDonald's. That's our ward, which is Ward 7. So yeah, no, thank you for having me on the call. This is something that I've worked on with with you, Scott, and Commissioner Nagel. I see some familiar faces here. We have Shannon and Phil. You're kind of our resident photographers of all the accident, and an old friend of mine, Lou Savastani from grad school. He's on. I know he's cares a lot about bikes and all that good stuff. But just one quick thing, it's great to have a bunch of Radnor and Lower Merion people on the same Zoom, and it's not a football game, so hopefully we'll get along and make some progress. But thank you all.
That sounds good. And so we have Ernie McNeely, who is the township manager from Lower Merion. Ernie, you want to say hello?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. We've been working on this project for a while now, as Scott gave a good summary of, and we agreed after the study was completed that we would proceed with the design for a signal at Montrose, and we agreed that we'd have the Lower Merion Township's engineers design the signal for the intersection. And so that's kind of been going on for the last year, and we're at the point now where we think we can get a permit out of PennDOT and perhaps build it. But thanks for joining us tonight for this conversation.
And we also have Township Manager Bill White from Radnor with us. Hello, Bill.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Just really quickly, I'm glad everyone was able to take some time tonight to learn a little bit more about the project and where we're at and what things might look like going forward. And I'm happy to be working with Lower Merion on a joint project. It's always nice when multiple townships can get together and get some of these things done. So I appreciate everyone's time tonight.
We have Brian Keaveney, who is with Pannoni Engineering and is the Lower Merion Township Traffic Engineer. And we have Steve Norsini, who is the Radnor Township Engineer. And we'll hear from Brian and Steve in a moment. And so I want to, of course, Bill made an excellent point, which is that for townships, neighboring townships to get together to deal with traffic issues on a road that is their border is never easy. But Lower Merion and Radnor have worked together on a number of things. And so far on this project, we've worked together very well. And, both Radnor and Lower Merion have been on the same page and trying to address the concerns on this county line road corridor. And I appreciate the work of everybody in Radnor as we try to move forward. So let me turn things over to Commissioner Moira Mulrooney, who is with us. And as I mentioned, she and I have been working with the township engineers and managers on this. And I laid a little background on this about this traffic study, and PennDOT has put a relatively new requirement on the plan to put a traffic signal at Montrose. And so Moira, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And I'm really glad to be here. A lot of good work went into this project before I became commissioner. Thank you to Sean Farhi and Commissioner Zella for that. But I live very close to this proposed traffic light. I'm right off of County Line Road, so I was involved in this as a resident and perhaps as a candidate. And so it is an issue that I've been keeping tabs on for a while. As Commissioner Farhi mentioned, the dividing line between our wards goes right down the middle of Montrose. So it affects, two significant wards in our township, and then obviously in Lower Merion. So this has been a great group effort to get us here to this point. The news that we wanted to share with you is that during the approval process with PennDOT, the engineers have been managing that very nicely. PennDOT came back to us and said that they first came and said they wanted the light at Roberts. Our engineers explained why the community had responded as they did to the traffic study, and that Montrose was an important corner because of not only crossing traffic by car, but it's a pedestrian crossing, and it also would slow the pace of the speed that cars can travel that stretch of road. So in their negotiations with PennDOT, it's been suggested that if the light were to be at Montrose, South Roberts Road would have a right in, right out restriction. So that would be from both directions. You could only turn right onto Roberts and only right off of Roberts. And in order to get there, the engineers can explain a little bit further what that could look like, but it would be sort of a raised triangle shaped median that would keep the flow of traffic running smoothly to the right. We believe that this would also increase safety. It would increase the traffic flow. You don't get caught behind a car driver is trying to take a left or go straight across. So if it's only right turns, it would be sort of a smoother out from Roberts onto County Line. And that there's some other benefits to adding this to the project, but we would consider both corners to be the same project to be developed at the same time. And I think we're going to be able to see a little bit of what that looks like, but I will stop there because this is sort of this is the new news that we're here to share with you. And if any of those who if you'd like to jump in, anyone else, but that's the basics.
And thank you, Moira. Let me just say that the great concern that our engineers and that we have had is that there should be sufficient distance between a new traffic signal, such as at Montrose, and the existing traffic signal at Conestoga, Thomas, and County Line. And you know, we have the goal of improving pedestrian and vehicle safety and slowing vehicle speeds. And so the Montrose intersection is more of a central location on the corridor, and will have achieved what we think will achieve the goals of the study. And there isn't a perfect solution, but we think that the signal at Montrose is the right solution, and that's what was recommended in the study with a lot of input from the public at the meeting at Ludington. And so with that, before we go to Q&A, Brian and Steve, our two engineers, if you want to put up the graphic that shows what the triangles, the proposed triangles would look like.
And Commissioner, can everyone see that screen?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
It's busy,
So
but you can see it.
yeah. It's
Oh,
a little
okay.
small.
Oh, it's kind of small. Let me see what I can do here. So what I'm showing at this point, I have a few graphics here, but this slide, before I get to Roberts Road, simply depicts the proposed traffic signal installation at Montrose Avenue. So this is the plan that was submitted to PennDOT. The signal, as with most new traffic signal projects, will include pedestrian signals with countdown timers, pedestrian push buttons, full ADA compliant pedestrian ramps, new mast arms, and overhead traffic signal heads. Also, emergency preemption will be provided to enable emergency vehicles to freely and efficiently get through the signalized intersection. So as both commissioners summarized very well, as this plan was being reviewed by PennDOT, the local district, the issue of how Roberts would be treated became a subject of discussion because both intersections, as Commissioner Zelov and Commissioner Moroni echoed, have experienced accident histories in the past. So PennDOT wanted to address this comprehensively, and one condition, so to speak, of allowing the signal at Montrose was to improve safety at Roberts Road. In this graphic, hopefully it's coming through clearly. I can see what's on my screen, but I can't see what you're seeing.
Yes, we have it.
So this graphic depicts what the commissioners accurately described as providing some raised concrete islands, triangular islands on each approach of South Roberts Road. So from the top of the screen would be coming from Lancaster Avenue. From the bottom of the screen would be coming up from Conestoga. Traffic would be permitted to make a right turn into Roberts and a right turn out. But what this modification would do would be to effectively eliminate the vast majority of crash patterns that occur at this intersection. So the crashes that have occurred over the years are almost all associated with crossing county line from one side to the other, attempting to make a left turn out of Roberts Road onto county line from one direction or the other, or turning left from County Line Road into Roberts Road, where traffic may be stopped in one lane, but still moving in another lane, and there'd be a collision. So with this modification, this intersection will still carry the vast majority of traffic that makes the right turn in and right turn out, but the through movements and the left turns would be relocated to either Montrose or Conestoga to the right. So there'd be signals now on both sides of this roadway that could facilitate that traffic volume. And with that, I think I can certainly answer any questions or get into further detail. I think commissioners and both managers did a very good summary of how we got here. But certainly anything else I can add, I can answer any questions.
Steve Morsini, would you like to add to what Brian has presented?
Thank you, Commissioner. And I think Brian summed it up. Our elected officials and managers really wrap things up. But just for everybody, I think everybody's aware, but these are not just motoring public safety projects, but the County Line and Montrose Avenue intersection project is also a pedestrian safety project, right? So there's two benefits to doing this. It's going to be safer to cross county line, the signals installed, and both of these interventions at Roberts and County and Montrose are also going to protect motorists. And like Brian said, we can get into the details more when some folks have some questions. That's all I'll chime in with for now, Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay. Steve and Brian, thanks very much. So that's the summary of where we are. So I will, if we leave this up for, I guess we can leave this up, Brian, and I'll try and look through my screen to see if there are residents on this Zoom who have some questions. I guess if you do, raise your hand. And there's Terry Shepard.
First of all, thank you to the commissioners and the engineers and everyone who worked on this. This is really needed. And I appreciate your pushing back on PennDOT and not letting them come up with something else that was not going to help the Montrose crossing. I walk that, I drive that. I'm scared every time I cross it. And I want to thank you for covering this. Question is, what would be the timeline for this getting done?
Well, boy, Terry, you went right to the heart of it. And I was gonna, in my wrap up, announce that, but no better time like now than doing that. As I understand it from the engineers who have been regularly interacting with PennDOT, there are easements involved, and there's still a few remaining. And then there's the bid process, and then there's the construction process. So I'd say what I understood from our meeting of a few days ago, October is October, November, let's say, for the signal to be operational. It's a process, and so and with things go well, we can exceed that. But I think that's a reasonable to conservative time frame. Steve or Brian, add to that?
Commissioner, I think you summed it up nicely. That as we discussed at our meeting, there's a considerable lead time on some of the equipment, and there is the bidding process. There has to be the award by both boards. I think that late October, November sometime is a good estimate of completion.
Thanks, Gary.
I have a question.
Sure. I don't see who it is who's asking, but go ahead. If you can introduce yourself.
Suzanne Spain. I've lived on Montrose Avenue for 35 years. So I've crossed Montrose Avenue and County Line in Conestoga a fair amount. I have two concerns. I like the resolution. I think it's much of the way there to solving some of the problems on Montrose Avenue. I'd like to request that at the top of Montrose Avenue, when it reaches County Line, that the no parking signs be moved further south so that people turning onto Montrose can get in. Because if there are people parked practically to County Line and people waiting to cross County Line, you can't make a right turn onto County Line or onto Montrose. Can you picture that?
Yes, I think you make a really good point. It's not wide enough to have cars right up to the corner.
Right, and there are also school buses. And we also have a few UPS, FedEx, and Amazon trucks coming through here every 15 minutes.
One or two.
The other concern I have is, and we raised this in a meeting that was held at the Church of the Good Shepherd a few years ago, and that was the speed limit on Conestoga between Garrett Hill and Roberts Road. In Garrett Hill, the speed limit, I think, is 20 or 25 miles. On this side of the overpass, up Conestoga to county line, I think it's 35 miles an hour. And so people make up for the slowness with which they have to drive through Garrett Hill by speeding along our section of Conestoga. I think it's as simple as changing a speeding sign.
No, it's not.
Unfortunately.
The state
In
road.
that process, so probably best to think of that as a separate project, and that would have to be undertaken by Radnor. And there is, as Commissioner Zeloff had noted, County Line is a state road, but so is Conestoga. So there's certain issues we have to go through. We take traffic counts, and there's a certain percentile which PennDOT says, okay, if you're at this percentile, that's the speed limit.
I'm going to rely on Mr. Farhi to make this happen for us.
So that's something we would have to discuss with the commissioners and Township Manager Bill White on the Radnor side to address, as well as our traffic safety unit from our police department, because I'm sure they have a lot of data on that.
I'm sorry, what percentile of what?
85th percentile.
Of?
So you take traffic counts and whatever speed is at the 85th percentile, PennDOT more or less says that's the speed the road should be at. So if
regardless, I'm sorry, regardless of the other issues, it's just how fast people drive, is it?
There can be some extenuating circumstances, but that's the basics, yes.
So if all of us old folks get on the road and just go at 20 miles an hour, would that help the cause?
That's one way to tackle it, but so I don't want to take a meeting with a separate project. If you're okay with it, please email me or call me, and we can pick up the Conestoga Road speeding or speed limit issue separately, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's Steve, but we'll get the police department involved and we'll start looking at that. But like you had summarized, that will be separate from the Montrose intersection project, but it is something we can definitely take a look at.
He was very helpful to Montrose Condominium when the tunnel was being repainted, because he got barriers and barrels installed at our back entrance, because people were not believing all the orange signs and driving through Montrose Condominium when they got to the closed tunnel. But Mr. Norsini got all those barrels there, and Mr. Farhi.
No. It wasn't me. It was Mr. Norsini, and Mr. Norsini also got that project done 2 weeks earlier. So I won't take any credit. Bill, I'll give you a little bit. But
It's all Steve and the police department.
Could I ask a question?
Group effort all around.
Could I ask a question?
Sure, Sarah Pilling, yes, go ahead.
My first question is there a traffic light at Montrose and Lancaster?
No.
Okay, so let's say I'm coming up Roberts Road and I want to go to Lancaster. Today I would go across, yes, it's a little dicey, but when you can't go straight, either Montrose is going to become much busier, because I know I would not go up Conestoga to the successor to Yangming and hang a hard left in order to take a right on Roberts to get to Lancaster Pike. So my concern is what that's going to do to traffic, to people who really want to go to Lancaster Avenue, but they don't want to go through Bryn Mawr. They want to come through further west. And so it's just a question I have. What's that going to do to the traffic patterns?
Steve
Well,
or
I
Brian,
would
do you
say
wanna-
that-
you wanna address that?
Well,
Sure.
just anecdotally, if you don't mind, I'll jump in because I
sure.
live there. Conestoga takes a lot more traffic than you think because people don't want to drive Lancaster. So heading west, Conestoga is a sort of a faster way to get there because it's not as congested. So I'm not sure how much effect it will have. I mean, a new traffic pattern in any way, Sarah, we're gonna have some adjustment period. Drivers will
aware
be
of that.
unsure of what's happening, but once, especially the local traffic gets used to the new pattern, I think, we've sort of played it out in scenarios about if you want to go west and if you want to go right, there's always a way to get there. It just you may now not have your straight shot, but a small adjustment for the safety concerns that I think this is addressing. In my opinion, as a local to this area, I think is worth it.
Well, but I would have a further concern, which is the bottom of County Line where it comes to Lancaster. That end of it with the Sunoco truck, people trying to come out to get to the corner to take a light, and the way that road is sort of tilted and convoluted. It's really undesirable. I know I've lived here for 39 years and I avoid the corner of County Line and Lancaster Pike because I find it extremely narrow, unsettling. The road's not level. So I know
There were other issues raised in the study.
Right.
But because of cost, we are starting with this. This is phase one. So there was a lot more discussed in the community meeting. You can read the full study on the Radnor website. I'm sure it's on the Lower Merion somewhere too, but you can read the study and see that there were several other suggestions. But due to cost, timing, ability to get it up off the ground, both townships agreed to put funding in, thinking that this might have the most immediate effect for slowing speed, allowing crossing, addressing pedestrian issues.
Right. I think maybe that the increase in local traffic will be greatly increased on Montrose. Because I know if I were coming up that way in order to get to Mom's, I would go across at Montrose, but then I get to Lancaster Pike and there's no traffic light. And man, I don't want to take a left there either with no light. So I think it's 6 of one, half of another. We all will adapt, but I just wonder, those were just some questions I had.
Can I just touch on Sarah's point real quick? And I understand that because it's going to make Garrett Avenue more of a through street. And we're going to put a light at Montrose. So you can't make a left at Conestoga. You can't make a left on Roberts. And Commissioner Moroney, what street do you live on again? What street is that?
Petrie Avenue.
Petrie, and Petrie is one way.
Right.
So yeah, so there's going to be a lot more traffic going up and down Montrose. It will be now almost a major through street, similar to a Garrett Avenue or a Lowry's or even Nathan. So it's definitely something that we'll have to monitor. We'll see how it plays out. Traffic safety is a big concern, and if it's an issue, then we'll have to address it. But it is definitely something that we'll have to address, and how it affects Garrett Avenue and the other connectors of Conestoga to Lancaster. I hope that at least addresses your concern, Sarah.
Well, as living on Garrett Avenue for as many years as I have, we affectionately refer to it as the Garrett Avenue Thruway because the traffic can be unbelievable. And when you get quoting my fingers, when you get strangers onto Garrett Avenue, they do not understand that you weave in and out where someone's not parking and they try and take their half out of the middle of the street. It's hardly desirable.
Well, we'll take that in account. We'll take Ms. Spain's account, moving the stop sign so larger vehicles can get in and out. This is what the meeting is there for.
Larger, it's just vehicles can get in. I'd be perfectly happy if we had no large vehicles around, but it's sometimes that you cannot turn onto Montrose from County Line because of the parked cars.
Definitely.
I think that's a great point.
Steve Orsini, anything you'd like to add?
I think we have some raised hands.
Okay,
Christopher Hart, do you want to,
thanks
Yes.
very much.
I see your hand raised.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Couple things. I totally agree with the moving that no parking restriction farther south on Montrose. Someone said it will become a major road. It's already a major road. The traffic on Montrose, and that's where I live, is substantial. And the traffic turning onto it from Conestoga, the eastbound traffic turning onto it from Conestoga is way too fast sometimes, but you live with that. My question actually relates to Roberts Road, and I'm wondering, someone was talking earlier about traffic coming north on Roberts, approaching Conestoga, where there's a light already, and they might want to go on through there and out to Lancaster. Will there be some signage ahead of that light that says right turn only at County Line, so that somebody approaching that light is going to know at that point they've got to make a decision if they wanted to go out to Lancaster?
Chris, I raised that question. I think Mr. Norsini or someone else might address it, but that's definitely I think what we would need to do is coordinate on both ends, because it's right turn coming out onto County Line from North Roberts, going from Lancaster to County Line as well. So I
Yeah.
think both of those corners will need some signage to let traffic, let drivers know that there's a traffic pattern.
That's correct, Commissioner. We did talk about that, and we don't have the exact signage identified yet, but that will be part of any project that happens.
Steve, you want to add to that?
No, Commissioner Mulrooney brought that up internally, and as Brian said, it will definitely be addressed if the project goes through.
Other questions? Any other hands up?
I got hands up for Lou Savastani. I hope I said your name right, Lou.
Yes, you got it right. That's bonus points for that because it's not an easy one. I'm Lou Savastani. I'm a resident of Lower Merion Township. I founded an organization in the township, Lower Merion Safe Cycling, and I'm also chair of Bike Montgomery County, which is the Montgomery County affiliate for the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia. I was at the meeting back in, was that 2019? I think it was when this was initially presented. And I'm definitely in favor of these changes. I think they will certainly help. A traffic light, especially for pedestrian crossing, will make a big difference there. But my one request, and I know this is a little bit out of scope, is that the study did recommend a road diet along this corridor, which would have a huge impact on safety and speeds. I just want to know whether that was something that the townships weren't willing to accept, or is that something that PennDOT said no to?
Lou, I'll jump in on that. I think the townships were not, had great concerns with that recommendation in large part because of the complexity of the intersection with Thomas and Conestoga on County Line and believing that it was not fully thought through in the study. And so we thought that would be very difficult to do. And as Commissioner Mulrooney said, a traffic signal we thought would have immediate benefits and go a long way towards achieving the goals of the study, although there are several other recommendations. That was really the biggest one. Brian or Steve, do you want to add to that?
No, Commissioner, I mean, you brought up, there was a lot of other issues with doing the road diet, if you will, with the big center turn lane. And I think Commissioner Mulroney noted there's a lot of projects in this County Line Corridor study, which is on the website. This is the one that flew to the top for an immediate safety issue, and that would make a difference right up front. So as Commissioner Mulroney said, I think everything is out there to take a further look at, but this was one of the ones that there were other implications that would be had if that was installed. So I'd say before anything like that's undertaken, that would really have to be restudied.
Okay. Thank you for that. I just want to put in, keep it in your minds that that's something that can improve safety, not just for pedestrians and cyclists, but also for drivers. And the fear in most of those the road diets is that it will push traffic off onto side roads, and for the most part, that just doesn't happen. So it's possible it could happen here, but like you said, if it would be worth studying again, I think, if that opportunity ever comes up.
Thanks, Lou.
Thanks, Lou. Next on the list with hand raised is Brian Collar.
Yes, thank you. First, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm in favor of all of this. I think that the safety and the work that everyone's done over the past couple of years is great. So thank you everyone for that. I had two questions. The first of which, I'm a resident on South Roberts, and I was just curious, the triangular barriers that are proposed to be put in place here, they don't look like they'd obstruct any traffic off of County Line. And I guess I was just curious, are they going to effectively be large curbs or rounded curbs, or how large are they going to be? And is that?
Yes, so you bring up a really good point. Our engineers and managers met with both school districts because we were concerned about school buses being able to make that turn. So what the schools, neither school district had a problem with them being put in, but they have to be of a low enough height or somehow graded so that a bus can actually roll over them. So it will not be a very high barrier. It will be, like a median, maybe with a sloped curb side, so that a bus can lift up their wheels over that, because otherwise they can't make that turn. So, there's no guarantee that somebody won't illegally move left and come, and take a left turn and go awkwardly around the median, but there will be signage that will be, a violation of the traffic rules and, ticketable offense, but they could be walked over and a large vehicle can still take that turn. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yeah, I was thinking, but I was trying to visualize it mostly.
Yeah, I think we're still in the trying to visualize it. The engineers probably know exactly what it looks like, but
yeah, Brian, why don't you tell us, Brian, describe how high is the triangular median going to be?
So these will be likely 4 to 6 inches at their highest point in the center. They're not going to be barrier curb, which is at the vertical face curb that people are used to seeing. They'll be angled curbs. As Commissioner Mulroney indicated, they'll be able, car tires will easily be able to go up and over these islands. And the turn restrictions will primarily be indicated by signage. So on Roberts Road, there'll be signs that says all traffic must turn right. And on County Line Road, there'll be no left turn signs placed at the intersection. So the islands are there to reinforce that turn restriction. As was stated, it's virtually impossible to physically prevent someone that wants to make an illegal move from doing it, but we're very hopeful based on past experience that this would dramatically cut down the amount of traffic going straight across and turning left both in and out of the intersection. It may not get 100%, but it should get the vast majority.
And
I
also,
think
if I
I
can just,
can help you.
sorry.
Ian, could you let me share my screen for just a sec? So I don't know if you're looking at the same picture I'm looking at, Conestoga Road with a.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so this is something different than what Brian Keaveney is talking about. This is actually to keep vehicles out in the road, but if you can see where my cursor is,
Yes.
this is the mountable curb, so sloped, so that if a vehicle had to go over it, a large vehicle, it can do so without causing damage. Just as an aside, we did this for aesthetics. This is actually concrete, but it's stamped and dyed concrete. So what Mr. Keaveney showed in there was something of a triangle, right? And the perimeter of that triangle will have this mountable curb. And then the middle of it is concrete. So just an option, we can do a pattern like that to make it, a little more palatable.
Okay.
Steve or Commissioner Maroney, if I can just jump in, along with the buses, it's got to be, we have to have our first responders be able to get through. So if we get a big fire truck or an ambulance, they're going to have to be able to go straight or go right without damaging the curb. And depending, because we're that close to the hospital, that if they need to get there and for some reason they need to take an alternate route, they're able to bypass that.
That's a great point. The next hand raised on the list is Mike. Are you there? Mike, I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now, Maura?
Yeah, we got you.
Yes, thanks. Sorry. I'm Mike Thompson. I live on Arthur Road, and I just have a couple questions. One is there any left-hand arrows, turn arrows on the light? Number two, is the light going to be synced up with the light at the intersection of County Line and Lancaster? My concerns are living on Arthur to be able to get onto my street traveling west to Arthur on County Line Road, and also is there going to be a backup where I can't get onto County Line Road from Arthur? Do we anticipate backups from Montrose almost to where County Line and Lancaster intersect because of the light?
I think you raised good issues. I'm going to kick this to one of the engineers about light timing and I don't think we're planning to have a left turn signal on the stoplight. I think
Okay.
it's just a general stoplight as far as the plans have shown. But I think with the timing, we really don't want to interfere with access to Arthur. That does come between those two lights. I also I live on Petrie, so it would sort of, the same issue is
Right.
that street between the two lights. So I think it does come down to that science of light timing.
And Commissioner, I can say that the signals will be coordinated. So Lancaster, Montrose, and Conestoga will all be coordinated together for progression along County Line Road. The queue of traffic on the County Line Road approaches, and you're correct that currently there's not left turn arrows planned. The left turn volume, frankly, is not high enough to warrant that. We're showing that the level of service as we look at it, which really is a reflection of the average delay to get through the light, is very low once installed. And the amount of traffic that will be stopped on County Line Road at the light at any given time really shouldn't exceed three or four vehicles per lane. So there's really should not be any blockage or any impact on the adjacent intersections.
Great, thank
If
you.
that, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you.
And next on the list is Pat McPherson. And Brian,
Hi.
I've got you next.
Thank you. There are a number of people on this call from Montrose condominium, and just to say we're all very grateful because it's been a very dangerous road for quite some time. I would just like to back up Susie Spain's request, and if the light is not going to be up until the fall, and that's great timing and it's terrific, it would be wonderful if you could move the traffic sign, the parking sign down now, because it's such a dangerous corner. And there are such big trucks coming down there, and you really can't turn right off County Line onto Montrose because there's always a backup of traffic. It's quite dangerous there. So if before the fall you could move those parking signs, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, you're on mute still.
Yes, I have a few questions related to both the intersection at Montrose and the intersection at Roberts. I'm a new resident here on Thomas Avenue, and I have, like many people here, experienced difficulties as a pedestrian along County Line Road. But specifically related to Montrose, the Montrose intersection, I'm wondering, as part of the intervention, will the turning radius for the curbs be reduced to slow automobiles as they turn to help protect pedestrians, especially for cars turning right? Related to the timing for Montrose, what's the timing of the light going to be like? Will it be enough to accommodate all types of people to cross safely and have enough time to cross safely? Because County Line Road is a wide road. And then separately for the Roberts intersection, since it will now probably facilitate more cross traffic for people going to either the Montrose or the Thomas Avenue intersection to cross, will there be painted crosswalks as part of that intervention as well?
Brian Keaveney, do you want to respond on those very good questions?
Yes, I will try to answer all of them. If I miss one, please let me know. But the first question regarding Montrose and the signal there regarding the corner radii, currently we're not planning on reducing the radius that's there on each corner. It's a point well taken that the smaller radii would slow traffic, but we're also still trying to make sure that intersection can accommodate school buses, emergency vehicles to turn in and out. And those radii really, as intersections go within the township, I think are a pretty reasonable size. So we're hoping the signal itself will do some good in slowing traffic down as they turn in and out of the intersection. But it's certainly something that can be further evaluated if it becomes an issue. Similar intersections, we think that pedestrian crossing distance on both the Montrose approach and the County Line approach, we have it really as short as I think we can get it. With regards to the timing provided for pedestrians, as I mentioned, the signal heads that'll be there on all four approaches will provide the separate walking person and the flashing hand symbol along with a countdown timer so that people crossing know how much time they have left before the signal goes to yellow. All those signals will be controlled by pedestrian push buttons on the corners. So the way the signal operates, as most modern traffic signals do, is the signal will only change if there's either traffic on Montrose or someone pushes the button to cross County Line Road. So the green time is variable, meaning that if there's only one or two vehicles waiting on Montrose, it'll only get 3 or 6 seconds of green time to clear those vehicles. But if someone pushes the pedestrian button to cross, they'll be provided a minimum of 20 seconds as it currently stands to cross the 4 lanes of County Line Road. And then there's some buffer built in there into that timing with the yellow and all red time as well. So effectively, they'll be getting about 26 seconds maximum to cross from curb to curb, which it should be more than adequate for even a slow walking speed. So that has been factored in. And your
And the
question, Brian, I
crosswalk.
apologize, was a
Yeah.
crossing somewhere else?
Yes,
The
so
crosswalk?
at the Roberts intersection, we now are going to have this triangular median or centerpiece that's going to encourage people to follow the direction and only take right-hand turns. But I imagine now we'll have more cross traffic there because you have this light now to cross at Montrose. I'm just wondering if painted crosswalks were going to be part of that intervention.
At Roberts Road, that is not planned. So part of the logic of locating the signal at Montrose is that it's fairly centrally located with respect to the corridor as a whole. So if we have, signalized intersections at Lancaster, Montrose, and Conestoga, our hope is that walking distance from any location in there is fairly convenient to one of those signals.
I'm sorry, I probably confused you. I meant
Okay.
Painted crosswalks for crossing Roberts Road at Roberts Road, not crossing County Library.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, Brian, let me jump in because this question's been asked by another resident. And it's a very good one. There's a painted crosswalk today at Thomas, and there are ADA curbs. There are not ADA curbs at South Roberts nor at Montrose. Clearly, this project will put in ADA curbs, right, at Montrose as part of the signal project.
Yes. So with the
crosswalk
islands,
would be a logical thing to then paint on as you cross over Montrose, staying on that side of county line.
correct. So crossing each approach of Roberts, we were planning on ADA ramps, but striping we can certainly add as well. I mean, I think that's a reasonable addition.
Yeah, good.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Anybody else? Commissioner Maroon, do you have anybody else on your list?
I'm not seeing anybody. Sean's raising his hand. Hi, Sean.
Yeah, I have just a quick question. This probably should go to Brian. So who's gonna control the light? I guess what side is that the box gonna be on? Is that Township gonna be? I know it's a state road. Is that Township? Or if it's on the Lower Merion side, does Lower Merion control the light? Or does Radnor control the light? Can they both control it? And then if there's an issue of how long to make the light, is that PennDOT's decision? Can the townships decide? And because we're dealing with 3 government entities, if you could just kind of explain the hierarchy associated with that, I think that would be good, at least for the commissioners and from the township's perspective.
Certainly.
I'll
So
jump in. I'm sorry. Just early on, Commissioner, it was decided that Radnor was going to own, operate, and maintain once it was done, regardless of where the box was. As far as timing changes have to be made through PennDOT. And obviously, since we're working so well with Lower Merion on this, the construction portion, along with Brian from Pannoni, if either township had concerns about timing, we would work together on that, whether it would be initiated from Radnor to PennDOT. And if a timing change was approved, we'd have to amend the signal permit plan, but that was the original assumption. So it's dictated by PennDOT, but we can make those requests.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad you asked that, Sean, because it's something that, on border intersections, it's always we need to know one township controls, not, and so.
Yeah, I just want to know, or if we have an issue with you, I guess we could kind of shoot it up to PennDOT and they could make the final call, not that we wouldn't want to work it out ourselves.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
First, but yeah.
That's a better
Thanks.
way to go. Anybody else? Any other hands? Sean or Moira, see any other hands? There's one. Shannon.
There's Shannon and Phil.
Yeah. Hi. First of all, I want to thank you. We're on county line on the Radnor side between close to Montrose, between Arthur and Montrose. And Montrose is also my 16-year-old's bus stop. So I really appreciate this. Also a survivor of an accident on County Line Road at the corner of Montrose in 1986. I just wanted to emphasize what Lo said. I'd really like to revisit the road diet in the future, just because County Line is so unwalkable because the traffic is literally, 6 inches from you when you're walking up the sidewalk, especially in the wintertime when people are maybe not clearing their sidewalks very promptly, and the trucks are going by spraying the snow onto the sidewalks too. So I just want to mention that I hope we can revisit that in the future, a road diet, and it would also make it more bikeable. Since if you live here, you're not biking anywhere from here. That's for sure. But I do appreciate all the effort everybody has put into this. And hopefully I will not have the opportunity to take too many photographs of accidents that I hear, because I'm here all the time since I telecommute, at any given time of the day, with people crossing at the Montrose intersection and the Roberts intersection. So I appreciate
Yes, that would be nice to not have more photographs to take. Gee, are there people in Radnor who don't shovel their sidewalks right away? I thought that only happened in Lower Merion.
I don't want to I don't want to diss Radnor in front of our Lower Merion colleagues. Yeah.
No, and the shrubs stick out as well. I mean, we've had this talk, but I appreciate you letting me use your pictures from Phil's personal Facebook page for me to share. So I hate doing it, but it's been a long time coming.
If there's any good things to come out of the virus and the PICO infrastructure project, is I haven't had an opportunity to take any pictures lately in about a year. So
great news.
Yeah, exactly.
Go outside and look at the cherry blossoms.
Yes, I've been enjoying. Thank you.
Anybody else with any questions? I'm not seeing any. Moira or Sean, are you seeing any other hands raised? This has been a really good meeting, and
thank you.
All the residents from both Lower Merion and Radnor who've asked questions, and some very, very good questions. And I'm sure both engineers have been taking notes. And one thing that I don't think was mentioned, but maybe it's obvious, but even though this is a state road, your townships will be paying the entire bill for the installation of the signal, the easements, the engineering, and the maintenance. And so we need PennDOT's approval, but we're paying the bill, and we've from the beginning agreed to split it down the middle, which is the right thing to do on this road. And so hopefully we can meet the schedule that was asked at the very beginning, and we can see the improvements in safety and speed reduction that we're all very interested in. And so thank you all. Thanks to our engineers and our township managers.
Thank you very much.
Sean,
Thank you.
do you want to, any final words for everybody on the call?
No, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Moira. This is great. This is your tax dollars at work. Hopefully you don't have all the answers, but the closer we get to make things safer, the better off we'll be. And I appreciate all the feedback, and we'll incorporate that the best we can moving forward.
Yeah, I echo the sentiments of my colleagues. This was a great meeting, really good input. I think we walked away with a couple of things we hadn't considered. So hopefully we can implement that. And then, this is just phase one. So as we will continue to improve. Traffic and pedestrian safety is so important.
Phase one.
And, we'll continue.
I think what Moira means about phase one is there's other recommendations in this plan, and this is the first.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah,
recommendation to implement, and then we'll get this implemented, and then the commissioners and the engineers and the managers will get together and figure out, what would be the logical next step. And commissioners are keeping everybody informed in our respective townships through emails and newsletters, and we'll continue to do that. So thank you all. Thanks, Radnor, for hosting the call tonight, and Ernie and Bill, thanks very much for being on the call, and everybody have a good night.
Thank you.